Welcome to the Thrive Table, an aspect of the Wire to Thrive podcast where we have conversations with guests around things we are talking about on the Wire to Thrive podcast. I'm Michael Adote, a Wire to Thrive podcast host, where we focus on the mind, purpose, and leadership. So far, we've been talking about Cynosures, and Cynosures is a concept in leadership that has to do with people who go beyond attracting attention to actually being guides. And in that, we've talked about three things: beliefs, aspirations, and success, which is what we'll be discussing today because there's a misconception about success. People think I have a dream, I work at it, I achieve it, and that's it. But there's a whole twist to it that we are going to unpack today. And joining me today is someone who isn't intimidated to stand by her beliefs and also live them out. She balances her natural inclinations with a determined effort to grind out results. Petra Abba-Asamoah is a marketer, author, and a corporate leader with nearly 2 decades of experience across industries as diverse as aviation, media, textiles, and cybersecurity. She has recently been appointed as the board chairperson of the Ghana Post Company Limited, where she hopes to bring her expertise in strategy and leadership in service to the nation. Beyond her corporate roles, Petra is deeply committed to mentoring and teaching. She's also lectured at Ashesi University, authored 2 books, Sales 101 and Jungle Dance, and actively supports young professionals in discovering their purpose and thriving in their chosen fields. Precious' journey has not been a straight line, which I'm happy I touched on before I introduced her, but one shaped by values, vision, and the courage to consistently grow and make impact. Petra, you're welcome to the Thrive Table.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm so excited to be here.
Happy to have you too. Now, before we zoom right into it, because we are talking about beliefs, aspirations, and success, I just want you to tell us what a belief is to you, what aspirations are, and how success feeds off these 2 concepts.
Okay. So for me, beliefs are what drives your actions.
Okay.
So the foundation of your thoughts, your actions, it's like your compass.
Okay.
What helps you navigate life, your interactions with people, where you go, what you do, how you say what you say, and why you don't do what you don't do. So for me, it's that the basis of your action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then aspirations.
Aspirations are so it's like your beliefs are the foundation. Aspiration is the next step.
Okay.
It's what you build your next step on. So you're building this tower and your beliefs are the foundation. The aspiration is, okay, where do I want to take this to?
Okay.
And then of course ties into what you actually succeed at. Yes.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So there's a thought that beliefs operate on a spectrum where they are not fully formed to when they are fully formed.
Yes.
And then we have aspirations as well. And then we have success. So if you can just give us a rounded view of what your journey has been with these concepts.
I would
just
say
a rounded view.
Constantly growing would be that. Because when I was thinking about this interaction, one of the things that kept coming to my mind was, how have the things that I've been exposed to from my childhood, my socialization, education, my interactions with other people, my learning, how has that shaped the person that I am now? And one of the key things that kept coming to my mind was my relationship with my father.
Okay.
And in particular, things he used to say that I believe have formed the crux of how I behave and who I am. So he had he usually started his wise sayings with the Englishman would say. So things like he would say, where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay.
He would say, how you make your bed is how you lie in it. My dad would say, travel and see. Things like that have formed a very strong basis to who I am.
Okay.
And so I feel that your belief system is a product of these things. So your socialization, exposure, your education, your interaction with the world. And then as you, like you said, because it's a spectrum, as you grow And as you mature, you begin to ask yourself, are these beliefs the beliefs that I believe will help me become who I want to be? Do I have to unlearn some of these things? So there are also some negative things I also heard my father say
that you're not proud of.
that exactly that I had to unlearn. So as a young person, for instance, and I'll say this for other young women, one of the things that I kept hearing in my environment was, if you keep talking too much, you won't get a husband. Or if you behave like this, nobody will marry you. And very young, I felt that, okay, was marriage equivalent to being, if I wanted to get married, doesn't mean I had to be quiet. Doesn't mean I had to not be my expressive self, because I've always been a very expressive person. Even though I'm very quiet. I've always been very expressive with the people I'm comfortable with. So at home, that's where they will see that side. And I kept hearing that, like, if you keep being so argumentative or wanting to express your views so much, this would be an issue. And exactly. So in my mind as a young woman, I always thought that, okay, if that's what it was, then maybe that's something not for me. But as I grew older, I realized that no, that wasn't really it. So there are things like that. There are also things like when they say you don't have to be too expressive of your views, just be quiet. And so I had to unlearn some of those things because I realized that, one, as a person who God has designed for a particular purpose, you have to be very intentional about expressing that purpose. You can't shy away from it. If you've been designed a certain way, allow yourself to operate in that way. Otherwise, you'll never feel that you've done what you have to do.
I think that leads to a thought I saw by a theologian. He said, don't try to free the camel of the hump of its back, because if you did that, you'd be taking away its
essence.
Right to be a camel, or its essence. So I'm very happy you brought that up. And I want to just zero in on some of the thoughts you had to unlearn, or the beliefs you had to unlearn, because I strongly feel that family and school are very instrumental in shaping our formative years. And as a result of that, we grow up with a lot of things we don't even know we have. So if you could just walk me through an experience where you had to confront a limiting belief that had really held you back, but it has deep roots, like you talked about your father. It could be something that you were passionate about, something that you believe wholeheartedly, but it's an affront to where you're going.
I don't recall that anything has been like a limitation in that sense, because rather I was socialized in a very to a large extent. There were times where it was a problem, but to a large extent a very expressive society. And then I moved into another community that felt that, okay, this is too much. So that rather became a problem. But one thing I remember very clearly was, as I was growing up, there was never a conversation around gender. So I have a sister and I have a brother that I grew up with. I have other siblings. But there was never a conversation around, because you're a girl, you can't do this. Or this is what you have to do. Except the occasional comments around, if you continue arguing like this, you won't get a husband. But there was never a conversation around, because you're a girl, you can't do this task or something like that. So I actually became aware of gender limitations when I started working.
So prior to working, there was really
There was nothing like that. It was when I started working, I started hearing people come into your office and saying things like, I want to see your boss. And I want to see your boss, the man, when I'm the boss. So that was one of the things. But that never, so I've never really thought about myself first as, okay, so Petra, you're a woman, so you can't do this, because that's not how I was socialized. So that's for me
purely from an ability
point of view. So for my dad, if he wanted someone to wash the car, it was who was available and who was better skilled. He never said, oh, Petra, you can't do this because you're a girl, so let Elle go and do it. No, it was never that. If he wanted someone to go with him on a trip, or he took us everywhere. My dad raised 3 of us as a single parent, so we're always with him. It was never because this person was male or that person was female. The only time there was that was when it came to my older sister was the eldest, so she had to do it because of responsibility. But apart from that,
There was never
There
any.
was never anything
Okay,
like that.
so walk me through the rude cultural shock you must have felt going into the office. How did you navigate some of
It
those?
was surprising. So, I mean, the first time someone said to me, so there was like a situation, I worked in a customer service environment and a client was upset about something. So I had asked to speak to the manager
Okay.
and I was called. And the person said to me, no, I want to see your boss. I was like, I'm the manager in charge.
Right.
No, where's the man? The man. And I said, well, I'm the manager in charge. I
Okay.
can assist you. But Michael, the thing was, at that time, there were three things I had to deal with. I had to deal with the fact that I was really young. So
Okay.
I got into management at 27.
Okay.
I was responsible for people, processes, outcomes. So there was that. So
That's
there was this think about me many years ago at a 26-year
yeah.
old telling this person, I'm the one going to
Yeah.
solve your problem. So there was
The
that.
person
It
doesn't
didn't,
have
yeah, it
confidence
didn't
in you in the first
have.
place.
So there was the gender in the environment I worked in. So there was the age, there was the gender issue, and then
Okay.
the environment I worked in, there was also the race.
Okay.
It was a multicultural environment,
Okay.
but people were
Okay.
used to having a Caucasian male being the person in
Okay.
charge. And I was one of the very first young Ghanaian women to lead a
To
company
lead
like
that.
that,
Okay.
you know. So there
Okay.
was that. So it was a very interesting space to navigate. There were times where there was this particular time where one of my senior managers called me and said there was a meeting that we had been invited to, and the people inviting us to the meeting had particularly said they wanted him to attend, and he said
Okay.
he's unavailable, and
Available.
so Petra is going to go. And they said, no, we want you. And he said to me very openly, you know why, right? And I said, no. Well, first of all, you're a young woman and you're black. I
Yeah. That
was
was
like,
it.
okay, yes. And he said, and that's something you have to work through. But I never thought about it as, okay, this is something I have to carry as a cross around my neck and not do things. So I pretty much said to myself, okay, this is what's there. What can I do? And so I ensured that I became very competent at what I was doing.
Okay.
So you could not avoid me. You
Yeah.
would want me in the room
Yeah.
without making it too fussy or pushing it around. I'm a very calm person. So I don't intentionally want to prove myself at anything. You would know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
The work will
interact
speak
with
for
me,
itself.
yes,
Yeah.
if you interact with me to an extent, you will know that if you talk to me, you know this is a very knowledgeable
Yeah. Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
calm
Yeah.
person. So I'm never going out to do anything just to prove that I can do it. You know,
Exactly.
what I'm good at, I'm good at. I don't have to make any extra efforts to make you aware of it. So that's just how I've
I
navigated
really
that.
like what you said about being aware of it and having a response
Yeah.
by demonstrating what you can do.
Yes.
And that's
Not arguing, not
yeah.
fighting, not trying to be like, why are you saying that? No, no,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
which is what is expected. Because just about 2 months ago, I was speaking to a Ghanaian who is based in the US, who is in the cybersecurity space, and was just talking about the usual racism. And I asked, how do you handle? And all he said is, I just learn to look people straight in the eye when I'm talking to them
Yeah.
because they are expecting a certain loud, not put together, not thorough. But I prove to them that I can demonstrate, I can do the work, and I can
Yes.
show up when you need me
Yes.
to. And
Yes.
I believe that's exactly
Yes.
what you were
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
Okay. So please just share, I mean, a belief experience where you were thinking about something. You didn't quite think you can do the thing. You were dealing with self-doubt, whether it was in the corporate setting, it was in your personal life. How did you get yourself to get going? Because for a lot of people that I meet in my coaching practice, one of the biggest things, I call it my coaching dilemma, is dealing with the inner critic, where there's a voice
Very
constantly
loud.
telling you, and most people have gotten used to the voice because sometimes it came from home, it came from school, it came from people we trusted who said something that hurt us. How do we work through those realities from a belief standpoint?
So it's interesting you asked that because as I was on my way here, I was having a conversation with a friend, and one of the things we're talking about was how do you push through execution when you have these inspired thoughts? And one of the things I said to him was what has helped me is I don't ask for permission. When I have an idea, apart from talking to my husband, there's nobody I go to and say, validate this thing.
me.
Okay, I would think about it. I may ask for I like input. What do you think? But I'm not asking you so that when you say yes, that's when I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not asking for your permission. If I'm going to go ahead with it, I'm going to go ahead with it anyway. I'm going to do it. Okay, but how do you deal with the inner critic? What has helped me, and I do have that inner critic. And let me use an example of my first book.
Okay.
Coincidentally, it's been 10 years since we started talking about Sales 101. 10 whole years. Your timing is perfect. So when I decided that this conversation that started on Facebook was going to move from just Facebook to being a book, and it had to become a book because I thought about how can I make this more of an item of legacy.
Okay.
Than just a conversation we have once and then that's
about
it.
Something
and it's gone. But once I got to that point where I want to write a book, I sat down to think about how is it going to happen? Because also I had gone through the process of thinking, what am I good at?
Yeah.
What are the things that my education, exposure, my life has prepared me for? So you know that we had done the 20-year life development plan in church. Yeah, so this was around the same time. And so I'd gone through that process of thinking, what are my natural abilities? And writing was something that came top of mind to me.
Okay.
Very easy. It came naturally. I had been playing around with it since high school. So I knew that writing, I'd already written it down. Writing was one of the things. But what's the next step?
What do I do?
What do I do with that? I've been writing on Facebook forever, but so what? That's not going to be an extra source of income. And so once I sat down and determined that writing was one of the things that I had been gifted with, what was I going to do with it? Then the thought of writing a book. I had never seen anybody, apart from, of course, our pastor, in my immediate environment who had written a book.
So you didn't really have any reference point?
I didn't have a reference point. I didn't have a reference point even for the topic I had chosen to write. I wasn't seeing anybody... Ghanaian business person in full-time employment writing about their work.
And this is pre what AI and social media
everything. 10 years ago. So there was no example. Everyone was writing motivational books, self-help books. There was nothing to look at or pure academic text. But I wanted to write something that spoke to that person already in the corporate environment, struggling with the things I had struggled with when I was starting. And what really did it for me was, as I started taking the steps towards that goal, things began to unfold. So first of all, we had started the conversations on Facebook, and then I had developed like a frequently asked questions document. And then I had written a skeleton of what I thought a book would look like. And I'd gone and tried to validate the ideas I'd met a few business leaders. What are some of the issues you have with your sales teams? I'd met a former boss of mine. I went and sat with him. How was it like when you were building a sales team? And then I had developed the skeleton of what the book was. Then I needed to be sure that the content made sense. So I ran my first training. I didn't make any money. But it was a good thing because it helped me. Once I developed the content for the training, then it validated, okay, some of the issues in the FAQs that needed to be addressed. And that's how it became a book. But the discipline of sitting down to write a book is another thing.
Which I'm going to come
That's
to very
another
shortly,
thing. So
we have to get that.
Yeah. So it's really just, there's always going to be the mind of, is it useful? Who will want to read this? Who needs this? But once I convinced myself that if I was in the same position I was, so at the time I had worked for about almost 10 years. And 10 years before that, there was nothing for me to fall on. So I'm sure there's somebody out there now who is like I was at the time, who would need this.
That kind of resource.
That was it. And once I got to that point, it didn't matter anything.
Very, very interesting what you shared. It's started with you being mindful of what you have.
Yes.
I can write.
Yes.
And then what can I do with what I'm writing with?
Yes.
And I think we underestimate what we have.
Yes.
Because usually it's flat. It's just writing. It's like she said, she used to rumble on Facebook. An experience that started off on Facebook started something greater than just a casual post on Facebook. And then I like what you said, no permission. You just moved
Yeah.
and started gathering information, started putting your thoughts down. This is pre-AI, so there was no chat GPT where build a framework for me in
No,
seconds
no,
and
nothing.
this is
Nothing.
hardcore,
Yeah.
but it's
Whilst
done.
fully employed in a job and also a mother to 2 young children.
But it was all done.
It was all done. So it's very, very possible. Now that there are even more tools that can make your life easier.
Yeah.
And in particular, one of the things that helped me was there was a situation that was a bit uncomfortable.
Okay.
So I had just, for the first time in my career, been faced with, what do I do if I don't have a job?
Okay.
And I want to say that because sometimes there has to be some discomfort to push you into the direction of thinking.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that I can do at any point. But there was the direct thought of, what happens if
I don't have a job?
my salary doesn't come for 3 months? What will I do? And so I had to sit down and really think that how can I monetize some of the
What
things?
led to that question?
There was a situation.
Okay.
There was a situation I had never been exposed to that created the thought that, so what happens if your salary doesn't come for 2 months, for 3 months? Are you always going to be in this position of waiting to the end of the month? And that's when I started thinking about multiple streams of income, how to monetize the things that you can already do, how to be less dependent on things that you cannot control, because you can't control the outcome of your job. You can't control. I mean, I worked in the airline industry for 9 years, and I saw so many times how just by an email, an airline decides that they're no longer flying to your routes, and all the jobs are gone. You know, so there's that much volatility and environment that as a person, you have to think about that. You cannot just wait for events to show up. You really need to determine for yourself what you're going to do. Also, because when you recognize that you're a person who has responsibilities, then it's not just you.
You think
it's you and all the other people who you're parts of their livelihood. So that was there was a period of discomfort that just made me think that Charlie, you need to think.
And that's the thing about life. It challenges us.
It does.
It throws things our way without permission, and we have to respond to it. So how did you navigate that experience?
Well, I think sitting down and reflecting and really just thinking. I think one very important thing is not to get overwhelmed. Like when you're faced with a challenge, don't just throw your hands up in the air and say, what can I, why is this happening? Rather
why me?
Why me?
Yes.
Rather ask, what can I do? And there's this very interesting infographic I see around that says, if you can't do anything about it, why worry? And if you can do something about it, why worry?
Why worry?
So just do what you have to do. So I just pretty much sat down and said, okay, what do I need to do? And it was almost like an audible voice that said, what do you have in your hands? And so I went back to the process of writing down the 20-year life plan that at the time I was thinking, why do I want to think about when I'm 52?
That felt like a long
time, Michael. 10 years have gone by. And we've had to revise it, review it. Some of the things I wrote down 10 years ago were not as ambitious as they should have been. I've gone to stretch myself a bit more. So we really just have to sit down and ask, what can I do?
Exactly.
And then believe in the small incremental steps that you can take.
It can be taken as you go along.
Rather than thinking, if you think about the challenge as this big dinosauric thing that I can't move, or a mountain I can't move, you would never be able to solve anything or move in any direction. It's just you thinking about it as, okay, if I chip at this problem gradually over the next 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, I will get to where I want to get to. Yes.
And I think purely from a coaching narrative, this is where a lot of people struggle. People don't understand the power of process and the power of being consistent at little things all the time and getting results. People just, Petra wrote a book, but nobody's interested in the process. But the process started with the chaotic experience.
And when you talk about consistency, on my 18th birthday, my youth pastor at the time, he's a bishop now, Bishop Ray, He wrote me a note.
Okay.
And he said, consistency is the mark of champions.
I love that.
I haven't forgotten that. And I keep it as one of my my life's beliefs because it has helped me. I'm not a very intense person. I don't do things with so much intensity and then
And just
they
pull
pull
out.
out. No, I really believe that consistency is what has brought me to where I am. It's my driving force. Whenever I want to do something, I just think about the long goal. How can I do this consistently over time?
Yeah.
I don't start things I know that I won't be able to sustain. I ask people things like, okay, this idea of yours is a beautiful idea. How is it going to sustain? How is it going to be sustainable? Exactly. You have this beautiful idea of you want to change the world. How is it going to be sustainable?
Sustain it, yeah.
How are you going to pay your bills? Because I tell people, especially in people of faith, when you think that this is a calling, yet you don't have a plan to it, it can become a frustration. Because you then ask God, God, did you really call me? Because when you can't pay your bills for the basic things you have to, you'll be very, very frustrated. And you start to ask questions. So the first thing I always ask is, how are you going to sustain it? Even if it's a not-for-profit venture, it must cover, you must cover the cost. Exactly. You must break even. So you don't go into debt because of this thing.
That's true.
Think about how you're going to sustain. So for me, consistency is one of my driving beliefs. Just being consistent. Is it a weight loss? So I because you know me, you know that I have a 4-year-old son. But that process of pregnancy and childbirth, I gained 15 kilos. And I've lost all of the 15 kilos. Wow. But I didn't tell myself I'm going to lose it 1 year after. That. I gave myself 2 years.
2 years.
I said, by the time my son is 2, I want to fit into the clothes I could wear before. Okay. And I know people who've lost all the baby weight in 6 months, but that was not going to be me.
Yeah, you wanted to work
I just wanted to work at it gradually.
Is that what birthed the walking? Because I
have
tracking your walk.
Yes. And interestingly, Michael, I started walking as a teenager with no example. Oh. It was only recently my mom told me she was an athlete in high school. Oh, I had never had the conversation with her. I didn't see it. Yes, I didn't see my dad being athletic. There was nobody in my environment. It was just something one day I decided that, okay, this is something for me. I think as a teenager, I realized it helped my thought process. So when I was walking, I was free to think alone. Personality, yes. Introversion does that. So it's just something that I've realized that it's something that works for me.
Okay.
Strength training is important also, but walking is one of the things that, so it's no longer just for weight loss. It's now wellness. It's one of the things that keeps me well, keeps me grounded. So if I don't do it for a long time alone. Yeah. I do it with friends sometimes, but when I'm alone, it's time alone. Fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I like what you talked about consistency because I was speaking to a person who works with one of these not-for-profits. They are funders. And he was speaking to a group of people who are seeking funding. And one thing he kept saying is they fund people who demonstrate systemic thinking. And systemic thinking, he explained, is being able to start something and think of how you sustain it 2-3 years before, because the donor is not coming to just throw money at you. You execute the thing, but there's no plan to sustain it. And the case in point was like a borehole. So when you dig the borehole, who's going to maintain it?
What next?
How are you going to ensure that 2 years down the line, that borehole is going to serve the people in the community? And that is where I think consistency really comes through.
But it's sometimes a function of survival. And that's one of the beliefs that we may want to break out of. And I got to that point where I had to tell myself, you need to stop thinking about just survival. Survival, there's a phase for that. There's a phase for, I just want to get past this period of difficulty. So I want to thrive in this space. So when you're just leaving university and you don't have accommodation and you're thinking of paying your rent, you're thinking about survival. You're thinking of how am I going to get my salary and get to work and get money to be able to pay my bills. That's survival. And that can be a very limiting mindset.
That's true.
Because you're always looking for the next thing that will give you more money.
And more stability.
More stability. But there's a place for that. At a point, you have to get to the awareness that I can't continue being in this survival mode, because you can't thrive like that. You would constantly be looking for more rather than looking for value. You will not see relationships for what they are. You will see them for, okay, can I get money from this person, rather than what's this person bringing to my life. So for that period of survival, I had a mentor in my life who I used to say, every time I go to him with a problem, he just talks to me. He doesn't give me any solution. And in my mind, my solution was just give me the money to solve the problem.
Money, or show me what
I need to do. And I struggled with that for a while, because I thought that's his responsibility. Like, if I go to him with a problem and money can solve that problem, just tell me. But he was rather teaching me a different way.
A different approach.
So rather than just throwing the solution at me, he would ask questions. So what do you think you can do? How do you think you can better improve in this area? Is there a course you need to take? Is there some effort in how you're managing the relationship that you're telling me is going bad? Things like that. And I had to grow older to realize that, that's actually value. That's the purpose of that person in my life, not to just throw money or things at me to make it to solve the problem.
That's true.
So we really need to think very, very carefully about, sometimes it's survival that is pushing you to do things. There are times where it's hunger and desperation that is pushing you to do things. So you're in that place because you feel like that's what's going to solve a particular need, not because you believe that that's going to bring any alignment with your purpose or anything like that. And once you get out of that mind frame, things begin to unfold in a different way.
That's true. And I think it points back to self-awareness.
Yes.
Because you became aware of what you have.
Yes.
You became aware of opportunities you could seize.
Yes.
And like what you said, is there somebody out there who is in a similar situation like me that I can write for? And that was it.
Yes.
And that's, I believe, are moments in life that transition us from the survival headspace to actually feeling like we can contribute something in life.
And Michael, you said something at the very beginning where we're talking about being a cynosure.
Yeah.
Not someone who is attracting attention, but someone who's also thinking about reflecting onto other people.
Yes.
I think that's one of the things that has been my a difference for me.
Okay.
The intention of why you do something is so important. Very often I find that the intention is, I want to prove again.
Yeah.
I want to show that I'm good at this thing.
Yeah.
Like we talk about our LinkedIn culture. I'm very delighted to announce. I'm very excited to announce.
LinkedIn leads, like there's a whole
exactly. For it. And now with AI also knows that that's how we want to talk. Yeah. So it gives us the output.
Yeah.
But once you get to the point where it's not just about you attracting attention, and I'm not to say that visibility is not important. Visibility is very important. And for a career professional like me, is even more critical. But you have to be mindful of your motive.
Yeah.
What's the intention? If the thought was, I just want to write a book because I want to make money. The first year, I didn't make any money. I printed 1,000 copies of that book. After the launch, I think we sold maybe like 100 or 150. I had about 800 books sitting in my house. That had to be sold. And then the reality of, you've written a book, Sales 101. How do you sell these books? That's the proof of the content of the book. Because it would have been very ironic if I had written a sales book and the books were sitting in my house.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's supposed to be a sales book, right? So I then had to sit down, and trust me, the excitement of writing a book, the excitement of launching it, going on TV, talking about it, once all that was gone, the reality of you do have 850 books sitting in your house you have to sell.
Staring at you every day.
Yes. So I had to think about a plan. And that's how come, so the trainings had to come through. I did a road show. And when we printed the next 1,000 copies, a bookshop bought 80% of those books up front. But that's work,
work.
So you really have to determine the motive. If it was just for the razzmatazz, then the books will still be sitting in my office, in my house.
You can say, I wrote a book. Where's the book?
Yes, which is what I find as one of the challenges, because there's the desire to be celebrated seems to be more important than the actual substance.
Exactly.
So I want to get the the accolades. I want to get the celebration. But I've even seen where people publish the cover of a book before they've written the book, and it says coming soon.
And the book
The book never comes out because there's a discipline to that you really need to sit down and get done.
That's true. That's true. I want us to really zero in on aspirations.
Okay.
The idea behind an aspiration is that there are two sides to it. Part of it is natural. It's almost as if a person is drawn to something. It's bigger than they saying, I saw this need and I want to solve it. That there's usually something within that provokes an aspiration, but there's also a part of aspirations where we need to see it on your schedule. You need to see it in the things you devote your time to, the things you talk about, the effort you apply. So if you can just shed light on how you work through, I have a belief, I want to do this. How does that belief translate into an aspiration, something that drives you and consumes you? If that's a word I can use.
Actually, it is. It's a very important word because sometimes you need to be consumed to act. Because I've come to believe that your aspirations may not necessarily be the easiest things to do or to achieve. I tell people that one of the ways to know whether you're in purpose or not is not that it's easy, is that the tiredness you feel is different. So when you're not in purpose, when you're tired, it's frustration. But when you're in purpose, it's fulfillment. You're tired, you wake up, something tells you, wake up and get going again. But when you're out of purpose, you're frustrated. You can't get the energy to get up. So aspiration for me is really that picture. You might not even see the full picture. I mean, we're talking to Sandrine before the show that you don't see the full stairway, but you have to take a step. And it's just a knowing. So it's internal also that you know. So there are things I've done now that I've always known
that you would do.
That I would do. But what was the pathway? I didn't know.
Have the full picture.
I didn't know what the pathway was. And then I got to a point where I also believed as a person of faith that I didn't have to know what the pathway was. I just needed to trust that it will work. You know, so there have been things I've wanted that I've just known that, okay, I want this particular thing. How am I going to get it? I don't know. I want it. But I need to take XYZ step in that direction. Because positioning is important. Like, think about it. If you're supposed to receive a gift and you're not at where you're supposed to receive the gift, the delivery person comes in and you're not there, they can't find you. So being at the right place is key. Being prepared is also important. So you might not know why you need a master's degree at a particular time, but you're thinking, should I get a master's? Should I not get a master's? Oh, it doesn't matter now. But will it matter in 10 years? Would your professional certification matter in 10 years? And so you want to future-proof your decisions. Think about, in 10 years, in 15 years, what would this matter? How would this matter? How would this add to me? I went to teach. So I did an MPhil in 2015. I finished it in 2015. I went to teach in Ashesi for 2 semesters and an adjunct. My students are now in middle level management. Some own their own companies. I went into a bank recently and one of my students,
somebody calls you.
Exactly. One of my students actually got me an appointment with his boss. If I hadn't had that experience in 2017, 2018, I won't have those relationships. And it wasn't a perfect situation because I was working and I wanted to teach because I felt that teaching is also one of the things I'm good at. So all part of this 10-year plan, 20-year plan. So you need to just take a step. Take a step towards your aspiration because you believe that this is part of the plan. And then things unfold.
Learning to just let life unfold.
Yes.
I like to use the analogy of driving at night where the car light can see
the
entire journey. But as you move, the road keeps unfolding and you can see.
And it's a mindset, Michael. It's the trusting that it will work out. You have to have that solid belief in your heart.
How do people navigate that? Because it's a reality. I mean, people struggle to move where they feel I need to move, but I can't see how things will play out.
Take it from us.
Take it from
people who have walked the path, who, I mean, if you look at, let's use Dr. Mensa Otabil as an example.
Okay.
There was no indication that he will be who he is now.
Yeah.
When he started out as a teenager.
Yeah.
He talks about the fact that he's not a very publicly engaging person. He's very introverted. The first time I heard him talk about stage fright, I was like, what? You too?
Yeah. So you felt like
Yes, I was like, okay, I'm in good company.
Exactly.
But take it from people who've walked the path, who are saying to you that we didn't always know everything.
Exactly.
We just started out on a path, trusting that once we did the work, so once you do the work, life is about principles.
Exactly.
You can't not do the work and expect that you would succeed. For instance, when I tell young people about praying for exams, I would say that pray that the Holy Spirit will bring you into remembrance of what you have studied.
Yeah, he's not going to just conjure.
No. So that thing of, I was sitting in the exam, I didn't know the answer, and I just got an idea. I don't know.
You don't believe
because it can happen. Miracles happen. But that's not the way.
Yeah.
The way is you study,
apply yourself instead.
You apply yourself, and then it comes to you. So your brain is not just going to be empty.
Yeah. You need
substance to work with. So when I and this has happened to me several times in my academic journey. Sometimes when you're studying, you're not sure the information is even going in.
Yeah.
But you have to have a system to test yourself. So are you going to rewrite your notes? Are you going to have a discussion with someone to know what you're thinking? Yeah. All of that. So these are things that you have to practice and get better at.
Yeah.
You can't just say, okay, I'm going to trust the process and not do anything. So what are the skill sets you need to develop? They're very basic skill sets a young person must try and develop. So things like being able to speak in public is a skill you need to succeed. Yeah. Someone who can arrange their thoughts on the spur of the moment, not someone who keeps saying, I don't have anything to say. Yeah. No.
You have to have something.
You have to have something to say.
In a
constructive way. Oh, they've already said everything. No. A very simple tactic is you can recap.
Yeah.
You can buttress. You can say, just to add to what Michael has already said, and just say something. Add your own. Don't say, I don't have anything to say. They've already said everything. No.
That's very true.
So public speaking. And public speaking is not just speaking to a crowd. It's speaking up in class. Speaking up in meetings. Yeah. The ability to organize your thoughts is a skill. The ability to make sense is a skill. And if you really desire that you would be in leadership, that's something you have to work towards. And they're simple things, like writing down your thoughts. If you're in a meeting, don't wait to be asked.
Yeah, start putting
your thoughts down. So it's one of the things I do. So you'll never see me in a meeting and I'll say, I don't have anything to say. No. There's something that I've written down. It doesn't have to be a question. It can just be a comment. So I know that people who always want to ask a question because they think that's what makes them visible. But sometimes the question is not necessary.
Or it's been answered.
Or it's been answered, yes.
And I like what you said because I believe aspirations are the way we prove to people what we believe or what we say we'll do.
Yes.
And that is what earns us a lot of trust as leaders.
Yes.
And that is something I've seen you do time and time again, speaking about something and then following it up with a lot of dedicated effort. Yeah. And a lot of times even what you are saying is just because of what you are doing, not necessarily creating a lot of noise without any follow through. So that is a very important thing that we all need to pay attention to, especially for people who are aspiring to be leaders.
And Michael, your aspirations are personal. And you would build your capacity based on your commitment to them.
Yeah.
If you say you will do something, you have to do it. Not because the world will say, yes, you've done it, or you've done well. But you are your first audience. Yeah. If you continue to lie to yourself, you're not getting anywhere. So you have to build that trust for yourself, that when I say I'll do something, I do it. For yourself first.
That's important.
Very important. That's what builds confidence. When I was writing my master's, I got to a point where it was very difficult for me to get through my thesis. Work, commitments, I had 2 young children. The whole process was just
It's just
frustrating.
too much.
And at a point I felt, my Nigerian cousins would say, who they pursue you?
Yeah.
Just stop.
Just stop.
But I remember that when I was doing my first degree also, I got to that same point. And what made me push through was that determination that I've started something, I need to finish.
That's it.
If I had stopped at my first degree, thrown the thesis away and taking up some extra courses, it would have been easier for me to do it in my master's. But because I had taught myself how to work through difficulties, I had built the muscle.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things you have to tell, and it has to be for yourself, not because, I want to come and say new degree bagged. It has to be for yourself because you really need it. You really need that. You need that confidence for yourself. And so you can look back and say, I did that. So I can do this also. It might be difficult now, but I've done this before.
Yeah. I can do
maybe
it
not
again.
in this space,
but
I can apply myself. Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting. So we've been talking about how our beliefs shape the way we see life and how our aspirations give us something to reach for. And Petra has already shared how her beliefs have impacted her from childhood. We've talked a lot about her aspirations and how she's followed through on each one of them. We'll be taking a short pause. We'll continue the conversation, but I want to introduce you to something exciting that is happening at Poimen. Poimen is the company that is behind everything that you see. And Poimen has launched its website. It's live. All you have to do is go to poimenleadership.org. Poimen Leadership is one word, .org, O-R-G. And when you get there, there's an assessment that has been designed for you. It's going to help you determine which program best fits your goals. We also want to understand your journey and the way you learn best. So when you take the assessment, it helps us come back to you with a program that is just designed for you.